for District 1. Once again, my name is Sean McGill. I'm a member of the Nassau County Chamber of Commerce Board and also a member of our Government Affairs Committee. It looks a little different this time than last week. Due to some production difficulties, we've switched to Zoom calls with our candidates. We hope to be back to full production shortly, but in the interest of getting our membership and the public the best information possible, we're moving forward with our forums through this format. As a reminder, for those of you who have watched some of our other forums, our candidates will have up to 5 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll start the question and answer period. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to answer the questions, and we'll rotate through with our candidates who starts answering first. So even though they're at home and hopefully comfortable, we'll put each one of you guys in the hot seat first. So I'd like to introduce our candidates for Nassau County Board of County Commission District 1, and that is Mr. Danny Leeper and Mr. John Martin. And with that, we will start with Mr. Leeper. Go ahead and introduce yourselves to our members.
Thank you, Sean. I want to thank you and the Chamber of Commerce for rising to the challenges. I know it's a very difficult time with COVID-19 and trying to put this forum together so you can inform your membership and others throughout the county. As you know, I'm currently serving as your county commissioner for District 1. I'm currently serving as the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. And I'm a lifelong resident of Nassau County in Fernandina Beach. I come from a family with a history of providing service to our communities, and with my father, former police officer with the city of Fernandina Beach. My mother owned and operated a hair salon, very successful hair salon in the historic district of Fernandina Beach for over 35 years. My sister is a registered nurse in the healthcare industry for probably almost 40 years. And my brother, of course, with a rewarding career with Florida Highway Patrol and now serving as Nassau County Sheriff. I'm married to Kelly Weeks, who is a registered nurse and in the healthcare industry as well, who comes from a family with 4 generations of living in Nassau County. Together, we have 3 children, Danielle, Walker, and John Michael. Danielle just recently got married in March of this year. Her and her husband living in St. Augustine, where she's a school teacher with the St. Johns County school system. And her husband, Justin, is a police officer with the city of St. Augustine. Walker is a senior at Flagler College. And John Michael just graduated from Fernandina Beach High School and off to University of North Florida. As you can see, we've been pretty busy and very blessed to raise our children right here in Nassau County and Fernandina Beach. As you know, I served as a fire chief and firefighter paramedic for the city of Fernandina Beach for over 26 years. Along that time, I served 12 years on the Port Authority, Ocean Highway and Port Authority, and now currently serving as your Nassau County Commissioner. I think my public record speaks for itself. I'm a strong leader. I fight for the issues impacting Nassau County residents and citizens. I represent all 85,000 citizens across this county. And we have a lot of challenging times ahead of us. We're in unprecedented times, as you know, and we have to meet those challenges. I stand up to corporate greed. We've closed the internet cafes across this county that brought the crime with it. Support public safety. We've enhanced our law enforcement and fire rescue departments and have the top agencies across the country. And I'm proud of that. And also we have an overall financial health condition in Nassau County. It's probably been one of the best at the moment. You know, in January, February, March, we had good reports. The credit rating agencies of Moody's and Fitch gave us high credit ratings. Our independent audit gave us the highest level of assurance because of our broadened tax base, our low debt, and our healthy reserves. But then came COVID. COVID-19 is going. We don't know the lasting impact that COVID-19 is going to have on our finances in Nassau County. But we have to stand strong. We have to make sure our businesses remain open, and we have to put our citizens back at work. I've held following positions throughout the county. I understand the importance of building partnerships, the importance of building relationships. I've been past chair and current board member of the Northeast Florida Transportation Planning Organization, where we've been allocated hundreds of millions of dollars for transportation improvements in Nassau County. In the next 5 years with FDOT work plan, we have another over $100 million already allocated to move forward. I'm proud of the fact that I'm able to work with Clay County, St. Johns, Duval, and Nassau and Baker in coming together and creating regional transportation improvements. And that's what's so important as we improve the infrastructure system in Nassau County. So I think my record speaks for itself again. I look forward to serving the next 4 years for all of Nassau County. We are a fast growing state. We're the 5th fastest growing state at the moment. We continue to grow at 3.2, 3.6% per year. And growth management, of course, is a high priority for all of us. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for listening. I'm Danny Leeper, candidate for District 1, Nassau County Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. Mr. Martin.
Good morning. I would also like to thank the Chamber, especially Regina, Sean, and Alex, for inviting me to participate in this candidate forum. My name is John Martin. I've lived in Fernandina Beach, smack dab in the middle of Nassau County District 1 since 1993. While serving in the U.S. Navy submarine force, I received orders to the USS Tennessee in Kings Bay, Georgia. My wife Donna and I discovered Amelia Island and Fernandina Beach. Along with our daughter Janelle, we made the best move we could have ever imagined. Nassau County is a great place to live, work, and raise a family. After retiring from the Navy in 2002, I worked for CSX Transportation as a logistics manager for 2 years, taught at Yulee Middle School for 1 year, and then was fortunate enough to be hired by Clerk of Court John Crawford to serve as Nassau County's first Veteran Service Officer from 2005 to 2018. In this position, I had the honor and privilege of assisting thousands of Nassau County veterans and their families in navigating the complicated VA system to apply for and obtain the benefits they so richly deserve. I currently serve in a variety of volunteer positions. Nassau County Veterans Treatment Corps lead mentor and mentor coordinator. I'm on the Veterans Council of Nassau County. I'm on the board of directors of the Northeast Florida Regional Council. I was actually appointed I was appointed by Commissioner Justin Taylor to that and the board that Commissioner Leeper serves on. I'm a member of Nassau County Republican Executive Committee, and I was recently reelected as Nassau County Republican Party State Committee man. I'm a former member of the Nassau County Code Enforcement Board, which Commissioner Leeper appointed me to. And I was a member of the Council on Aging Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. Why am I running? As a fiscal conservative, I believe that the citizens of Nassau County already pay enough in property taxes. We have heard for the past few years that growth must pay for itself. It's a catchy slogan, but it means nothing unless it is followed up with a budget that does not increase the tax burden on existing taxpayers. I promise that I will not vote for a budget that increases your taxes. Oversight of top-level county employees is very important to me, specifically the county manager and county attorney. Notice that I mentioned them separately. Merging these positions under one person was a mistake. It removes checks and balances and gives too much power to one person. Transparency should be the norm. Backroom discussions at a commissioner's house and elsewhere over cocktails is a violation of the Government in the Sunshine Act and should not be actions that are worthy of re-election. Under my opponent's watch, Nassau County finds itself on the losing end of several lawsuits with Rayonier. Regardless of where you stand on this, whether you're pro-Rayonier or anti-Rayonier, it doesn't matter. Yet now a judge is going to determine the outcome, and the only people who win, the lawyers. Everybody else is going to lose to this. Nassau County has already lost one count of this lawsuit regarding Parks and Recreation and who's supposed to pay for them in the Stewardship District, commonly known as Wildlight. I promise that I work hard to ensure that I am an informed commissioner, and before I vote on any contract or agreement or legislative action, I will make sure the hard questions are answered first. Since fiscal year 2013-2014, Nassau County's budget has increased from $155 million to $255 million. That's a 65% increase. During the same time frame, our population has increased by less than 10%. Where is all this money going? What increase in services are you seeing for it? Also, since fiscal 2013-2014, the millage rate on our property taxes has increased 33%. This is in addition to the increased property tax we pay even when the millage rate stays the same due to our assessed values increasing each year. If you're tired of watching if you want a commissioner that will return your calls instead of them going to a voicemail box that is almost always full, it may be time for a change. If you want a commissioner that is willing to make the tough calls regardless of political pressure, it may be time for a change. If you want a full-time commissioner, it may be time for a change. If you want to be represented by a commissioner that actually lives in District 1 as required by law, it's definitely time for a change. I believe that my life experience, both military and private sector, along with my education and the variety of volunteer positions I have held, make me uniquely qualified to serve as your next Nassau County Commissioner for District 1. I hold bachelor's degrees from the University of North Florida, double majoring in logistics and management, and I have an MBA also from the University of North Florida with a concentration in economics. So on August 18th or sooner, vote for a change. Vote for John Martin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, now we're kind of warmed up. I know you guys are used to these Zoom calls, and we'll start with the questions. As a reminder, 1.5 minutes for each answer. I'll put the orange or the red piece of paper in front of the camera at 30 seconds and then at the end of your time. So we'll start with Mr. Leeper. What, in your opinion, is the single most important characteristic in a person to be successful as a county commissioner?
That's a great question, Sean. I think a person of integrity, someone you can trust, someone who will listen to all sides of the issues and not make a knee-jerk reaction. They'll listen to the professionals in the particular disciplines that we're listening to as far as legislation. Right now, as you know, we're in a world health pandemic. I don't have that expertise, but I am a former firefighter, paramedic, first responder, and my first priority is to keep our citizens safe. And I'm going to listen to the health professionals and do what we think is best to make sure that we keep our citizens safe and healthy. If we save one life, then it's well worth it. I know people who've been touched by COVID-19. I'm sure everybody listening has some story about COVID-19. We have to listen to those professionals. We have to take in the information and make and analyze the information that's coming in and make sure that we make the right decision, because as an elected official, I take my vote very seriously, because the decisions we make, we're responsible for making sure that we don't impact our citizens to a great burden. And you've heard my opponent talk about the budget increases and what have you. We have a lot of grants. We have a lot of projects we've been working on in Nassau County, a lot of infrastructure projects. Sometimes we may have 10 projects going on at one time. We might not get completed before the end of the year. So we have to carry that money forward. So of course that's going to increase the budget, because we get to extend that project in the coming year. At the same time, you just have to be willing to listen. Again, anyone, I can't tell you the number of times I'm out and about. Yes, my voicemail does stay full. I do empty it, but at the same time, I get a lot of calls, because being a county commissioner is a full-time position. I'm not retired, and I'm not looking for a paycheck. I'm not running for a job.
All right, I'm gonna have to cut you off there, Mr. Leeper. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin.
It is a full-time position. My opponent already has a full-time job. So being retired, I don't think is a negative for me. I can treat this as a full-time job. He alluded to his voicemail being full. A little theory to practice. I had hopefully a potential constituent call me with a complaint about something. And I said, well, call your commissioners. And I said, let me know what kind of response you get from my opponent. I said, I bet you're going to get a full voicemail, and you're not going to even be able to leave a message. And sure enough, that's what happened. So anyhow, to answer your question, honesty, integrity, and ethical behavior. Okay, those are what's most important. And listening to your constituents. What we've had over the past several years, going into the last election, we had a commission that was pretty much, not on the basic things that everybody agrees on, but on important taxes and things that get into our pocketbook. And Kelly were on board. So you had 3 commissioners that always voted in lockstep with each other, and you had 2 commissioners that voted in lockstep with each other too. And I don't think that's good. I think the answer is usually somewhere in the middle. And I think if all commissioners can put their egos aside and just hash out these problems and come to some kind of consensus, take the vote, move on, and don't hold a grudge on it. I think that's the way to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And we will start our next question with you, Mr. Martin. How do you believe we should balance business growth in the county with residential growth?
We cannot rely on residential rooftops to continue to fund the county. What's going to happen if we do that is we're going to increase taxes on existing taxpayers. It's just going to continue to happen. And it's been going on for a long time. The grant money that my opponent talked about, that didn't stop the millage rate from going up. Okay, so if the grant money is a way to balance this budget and not impact taxpayers, then it's not happening. A 33% increase in the millage rate. We need to develop the Crawford Diamond and bring manufacturing, warehousing, distribution, commercial, industrial businesses out there and the taxes that will come from business. And I think that's should be the top priority going forward as far as developing the Crawford Diamond and protecting our taxpayers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Mr. Leeper.
Yes, Sean, it's very important to make sure that we have a good, diverse tax base. And I think some people forget that. We do have a very diverse tax base, but we need to diversify more. We have a strong tourism industry, retail industry, small businesses. We have a housing, construction industry, and then we have agricultural industry as well. So we have a diverse industry. If you'll recall, going back to 2008, 2009, 10 timeframe, we're in a recession. It hit the housing and construction industry hard. We were at $8 billion in property evaluation across this county. We dropped in 2013, 2014, we dropped down to $6 billion and lost a lot of revenue. It's taken us 10 years now. At the end of 2019, we're now at $9.3 billion in property valuation in this county. So we've done some things right, and I like to think that we continue to do things right, but we have to have good mixed-use development, which I'm proud of the fact that we've worked with developers over time. We have a vision, 2032 vision for Nassau County, where we have developers that want to come in. They've bought into our vision. They're doing mixed-use developments. It takes less need of infrastructure. It puts people where they can shop without getting back on the major highways. So we built parallel roads. We need to continue those mixed-use developments, but we also have to make sure that we have a good office, commercial, not necessarily go for the home run. There's a lot of small businesses that we can continue to recruit and come in, but also retain and help our existing businesses. They are so important. We've seen just now with this COVID-19, the impact it's having on our lodging, hospitality, restaurant, and retail sector. We have to help them and do everything we can to make sure they stay open and keep our citizens employed. That's what's important now. That's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on the issues and where we are today and where we're going in the future, because we have a good plan for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. and this next question you actually touched on a little bit, actually both of you guys, and I'll let you expand on it a little bit more. So starting with Mr. Leeper, are there things the county is doing well, or of course could do better in terms of fostering responsible economic growth within the county?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job. Again, we just passed the Western Heritage Preservation Planning Guide over the western part of the county. We listen to the citizens about how they want to grow, not how we want to grow. So we've approved that vision by holding a series of workshops all over the county. We've also done the same thing. We have a planning guide where the developers come in, and it's no longer, we're going to tell you how you're going to look, Nassau County. We will tell you how we want to grow. And like I said, I just touched on a lot of mixed use developments. We look at the William Burgess District, you look at the ENCPA, you look at other developments that's coming out along the Amelia Concourse. We inherited, unfortunately, years ago from the DRI and PUD impact of developments coming in under 750 where they did not have to put in the infrastructure. Unfortunately, we're now wrestling with that, but we're making great strides because we've learned from that, and the state's learned from that. This legislation's been changed, and we've been on the forefront of making changes in legislation, not right here locally, but also across the state. I'm proud of the fact I'm a board member of the Florida Association of Counties and on the executive team with the Small County Coalition. But we fight hard for home rule. We fight hard for legislation that's going to impact our counties. And we try to push back on the unfunded mandates that the state pushes down on top of us. But the growth management is what we are getting our arms wrapped around. We've applied smart growth principles throughout the developing stage. We have a great planning staff. We have great employees that have great vision for this county. They're young minds. They can see where we want to go. And I'm proud of the fact that we have goals and vision laid out to help us develop and increase our tax base and not rely just on residential ad valorem.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. Mr. Martin.
I think one of the best decisions that the county commission made several years ago was when they hired Laura DeBella to be the executive director of the Nassau County Economic Development Board. She worked very hard throughout the county to educate the citizens. She spoke at, I can't count how many times I heard her speak at different organizations that I'm a member of. And I just think her energy and her savvy and her smarts, she was just wonderful to have as the executive director of the Economic Development Board. And then what happens? Text messages back and forth between county commissioners about her and calling her names, pretty much setting the stage for letting her go or unfunding the Nassau County Economic Development Board. And so what did she do? She could see the writing on the wall that things, what the future was going to hold for her here. And she took a job in Tallahassee with a port association. So, kudos to her for all the hard work she did while she was here. And I wish her all the best in the future. And the way she was treated was really terrible.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, guys, here comes a hot seat question for you. And unfortunately, Mr. Martin, you're up first. As a commissioner, how would you handle a conflict between a staff recommendation for a course of action versus what you are hearing from your constituents? And maybe tell us a little bit how you would work through that thought process.
Sean, I apologize. My connection paused.
Okay.
I didn't catch the first part of the question.
We'll start over here. So as a commissioner, how would you handle a conflict between a staff recommendation for a course of action versus what you are hearing desired from your constituents? And tell me how you'd work through that process.
Well, I don't think you're ever going to please, and my opponent knows this, you're never going to please all of the people all of the time. So regardless of how a commissioner votes on any issue, you probably have irritated a third to half of the electorate out there. So I think what you need to do is you have to take the input from the constituent and then research it with staff and do your own research. Make the decision that's right. Don't make a group of constituents, because no matter what decision you make, you're potentially going to lose a group on that. So I will never make a decision based on anything but facts and research. And I think staff's input is vitally important, but they're not infallible. And that's not a knock on staff. I appreciate county staff, but that doesn't mean county staff is always going to be right. So I think each commissioner has to do their own research based on the input they're getting and follow up on the accusations or the points that are being made by both staff and your constituency. And then you make the right decision. You do what's right.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Leeper.
Yeah, Sean, this is something that we make decisions every county commission meeting. We have staff recommendations. We have public input that comes into every public hearing that we have. I get emails, I get phone calls throughout the day, throughout the week on certain issues, whatever is going to impact a certain area. And I like that impact. I like the citizens to stay engaged. I encourage public input. I return their messages. I do respond to their emails. I think you can ask any of them. But again, staff has valuable insight because they're following the letter of the law within the legal constraints of what an applicant comes forward, whether it's a development or whether it's a change in legislation. But we listen to staff, we listen to the citizens, we listen to legal counsel, and then we make a determination. We deliberate in the boardroom. As you know, we can't talk about business outside the boardroom. It's the Sunshine Law, and elected officials have to remain unbiased. I've attended meetings where people have asked me, how are you going to vote on this? I can't say how I'm going to vote on it because it could create legal consequences if I bring my own personal opinions into a discussion outside of the boardroom. I have to make all my decisions inside the boardroom where we can bounce ideas off each other. Last night was a perfect example. We were hearing a land application change in use over on the west side of the county. Residents showed up, voiced their concerns, didn't like what was being proposed. We continued that item because of the public input, and then it came back last night because the applicant made the changes that the citizens wanted. And so we hear the citizens, we hear the applicant, we hear staff, and through all that, we find a compromise and a balance to do the right thing for citizens in Nassau County.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. Okay, we're all on Zoom now. Obviously, COVID-19 has changed the way a lot of things are being done, and unfortunately have brought many businesses to the breaking point. And what would you do to try to ensure the continued survivability of as many small businesses as possible?
Sean, this for me?
That's for you. I'm sorry, Mr. Leeper.
Okay, no, you're good. Yeah, I think what you found as a member of the Small County Executive Coalition over in Tallahassee and the Florida Association of Counties, as you know, Congress appropriated billions of dollars for relief for small businesses, and 12 largest counties of the state of Florida received direct funding from Congress. Regina, the president of the chamber, reached out to us and said, hey, what can we do to help our local businesses that are suffering? Because we had businesses closed. We had employees furloughed, being terminated, unemployed. We have senior adults who have rental properties and tenants who can't make the mortgage payment or can't make the rental payment or can't pay the utilities. So we needed to find a way to help those local businesses and help our employees. So we reached out, we did a research and found out that the governor was holding billions of dollars of funding that was designated for the rest of the local counties. So we fought hard with the chamber, the members of the chamber, county government, and others, and other small counties fought hard to get the governor to release those funds. We were supposed to get $5.1 million for relief for small businesses, but in pushing the governor's office and how they appropriated the funds, we wound up with $15 million. At the first check that we received from the government was $3.3 million. So the county commissioner designated $2.2 million immediately to help local businesses so they can help their employees and get back on their feet. We have to do everything we can to help them, and I'm fighting the way and trying to find other ways that we can make sure that employees are working and businesses are opening, because I am not in support in closing this economy down again. We have to find ways to keep them open so that we can jumpstart our economy again. So I think we're finding ways, working through the chamber. You provide the advocacy for the small businesses, and we're listening to you, and we want to work together and partners to make sure that we're helping as many people as we can.
Thank you so much, Mr. Leeper. Mr. Martin.
Again, when you asked him the question, the pause that I didn't get the beginning.
Okay. That's fine. We're working through this, and basically the question is, because we're all in this new world, the current COVID pandemic has brought many businesses to the breaking point. What would you do to ensure the continued survivability as many small businesses as possible?
Well, on this point, I agree with my opponent. I believe that we need to coordinate with and advocate for the Nassau County Economic Development Board and the Chamber to help us work with our constituents. Let's face it, you guys are the small business and business in general experts. So I think better advocacy for the Chamber and for the Economic Development Board to help utilize the Florida Emergency Bridge Loan Program and the Paycheck Protection Plan. So I think that would be a great start with these two organizations to help small businesses stay afloat. And I think, some of the rest of the burden is on those of us that live here. I know my wife and I, this may not sound like a big deal, but my wife and I, when restaurants were closed down at the beginning of this, and everybody was, all these, the service industries trying to just keep their skeleton crews alive. What we did almost every day was went somewhere to, to go do takeout as soon as they were allowed to do takeout. So I know that doesn't sound like much, but I think what I'm leading into is, those of us that live here and we want our small businesses to survive, support them. Do whatever you can, whether you need it or not. Go out and support small business by purchasing something. In a small way that'll help keep them afloat, because once they close down, they're not going to come back.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And for you both, we're in the home stretch. Just a couple of questions left. And kind of following up, and we'll start with Mr. Martin on this one. What's your opinion of the role of the Chamber of Commerce in interacting with the Board of County Commissioners?
I think you play a very important role because, as I said before, you guys are the business professionals. So the board should take your input seriously. And overall, I think they do on that point right there. So I believe the board plays a major role with the county as an advocate for all businesses here in Nassau County, small, medium, and large. So you guys are the professionals, and the board should listen to you. That doesn't mean they're always going to agree with you, and that doesn't mean I'll always agree with you. But as I said before, you take staff recommendations, you do your own research based on those recommendations, and listen to your constituents and listen to the professionals at the chamber.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Leeper.
Yes, Sean. The role of the chamber is valuable to us as elected officials. As you know, we need the eyes and the ears and the advocacy of the chamber members and the chamber staff to keep us on target. Sometimes we're considering legislation that we might not see the unintended consequences, how it might impact a local business. And you are the first ones that come forward and say, hey, have you considered this? Have you considered that? So I see the chamber's role as a spokesperson, if you will, of local businesses in this county. You've done a great job over the years. I hope you continue to do so as well. I'd like to think we have a good relationship with the chamber and our membership, but you play a valuable role in the elected process, and especially in the legislation process, because again, what I said, we don't always get it right, and we need your input. I think not only do you look out for the interests of small businesses and those employees, but also you provide valuable benefits to the small businesses, especially someone that's looking to relocate here. Because you and I both know when people are coming to look for a place to relocate their business, that's the very first place they go is to the chamber. They want to know about, what do you have to offer? What areas is the best place to be in? They ask about the low crime rate. They ask about our school system. Do we have A-rated schools? We have the top-rated schools. We have great access to great health care. We have a good infrastructure system leading to the major highways. So we have a lot of great things people are looking for. We have that now, and we need to enhance that, and we need to keep it and maintain it. And we can do that through the role of the chamber and through your input.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. And before we go to this last question, again, I'd like to thank you both. And for this one, I'll allow you 2 minutes and to use this kind of as a wrap-up question. And starting with Mr. Leeper, simply, why are you the best candidate for this position?
Well, Sean, I think you all know who I am. I've been in public service for many years, serving the city of Fernandina Beach for 26 years, the Port Authority for 12 years, now serving as your county commissioner, serving this chair. I serve on the various boards, regional boards. I served on a number of other leadership boards over time. I understand the impact of the decisions we make, and your vote is so important. You have the freedom either to make a change or see we're well on a correct path. We're on a good path, and we want to maintain that path. Change is not always the best, but I think my public record speaks for itself. I provide a strong leadership, a proven experience. I've been tested. I fight for what's right, and I value your vote sincerely and understand that everybody across this county, we're elected at large. It's not one district, two districts, three districts. It's 5 across this county, this great county. And every voter has a say in this election. All 85,000 residents, I will protect and I will fight for what's right in the decisions that I make, because I take that responsibility sincerely, and I'll do the best thing based on the information we have at hand. As I said earlier, we are in unprecedented and challenging times. We know revenues are going to be a shortfall. We've learned real quick how important tourism industry is to Nassau County. We've learned real quick how important small businesses are to Nassau County. We have to protect them. We have to keep our county safe and secure, to expand that tax base and encourage others to come join us. I ask for your vote on or before August the 18th. I'll work hard for you. And now, more than ever, we need a strong leader for this county, and I feel like I'm the best candidate for this position. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Leeper. Mr. Martin.
Well, I'm not going to go through my opening remarks, but the issues that I touched on in my opening remarks makes me a better candidate based on those issues. Rising taxes, the conflict with Rayonier, and the lawsuits. And I predict we will lose more of those lawsuits, specifically pertaining to my opponent in violation of the Sunshine Act. And there are going to be questions about his residency also, not living in District 1, and when he has a homesteaded home that he lives in District 2. I think that's an issue too. And the Fernandina Beach News Leader just had an article on that from a forum with the Republican Women of Nassau put out, where he defended that he lived in District 1 and he does not. Commissioner Leeper has been on the board for 12 years and now is seeking another 4 years for a total of 16 years in service. I'm sure that's probably happened before, but it's not the norm. Most commissioners serve 1 or 2 terms, and that's about it. He's going for 5th term limits on this. I don't know, but I think we need fresh eyes, and I would bring fresh eyes to this, because people that know me well know that I'm a straight shooter. I'm a no-nonsense kind of guy, and I believe that I'm the kind of guy you need on the Board of County Commissioners that is willing to call balls and strikes the way they are. Okay, I can't be bought. No corporation or individual or group will control my vote. I'm my own man, and that we need to restore some really, in my opinion, some credibility to the board that's been in the past few years with all the problems going on now with honesty and ethical issues. So I'm humbly asking for your vote on or before August 18th. I won't let you down. I'll work hard to be an informed commissioner, and my vote will be for the taxpayers in Nassau County on every issue.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. And once again, in these unique times, I know both our candidates care strongly about the community, and they would rather be seeing your smiling faces right now, even if it is behind a mask. But I thank you guys for rising to the challenge and looking at yourselves on a screen while you were speaking with us. If you guys want to learn more about our candidates, we do have answers to a candidate questionnaire that were completed at NassauCountyFLChamber.com, and this video will be up there as well. And just like our other forums, if you have not watched our Superintendent for Schools or our Supervisor of Elections, we will have our other Board of County Commissioner candidates up later today as well. School board next week, again, probably through this Zoom format, and municipal elections a little bit later this summer, hopefully back to full production capability, but we'll find out. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching and continue to stay healthy. And thank both Mr. Leeper and Mr. Martin for participating.
Thank you as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.